Hello, welcome to part 8 of GitHub, Git, and all that stuff for poets. And in this particular video, I'm going to show you how to have your poem or whatever it is you're making web page hosted through GitHub. So your Git repository on GitHub can actually be, you can get free web hosting with it. So, and this is by using something called GitHub Pages. GitHub Pages is a rather large topic because there's tons of features that it has available for you, but I'm going to show you the very basics, just how to take your files and have them viewable through a URL. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do in this particular video. So if you've been following these videos along, there's these important Git concepts that I've been covering in each one of these videos. Commit, we have a repository. A commit is like a save. Branch is having a separate branch of changes that you might merge into your master branch later if you like those changes. There's push and pull, pushing being to send and pull being to retrieve. So there's all this stuff that I've covered in all of these other videos. And the exciting thing is that using GitHub Pages, all of this stuff works identically exactly the same way. So you can have a project that you are working on through Git, keeping track of its history, collaborating through Git. But if you flip a switch and it's on GitHub, you can actually view that project as a directory of, as if it's hosted on a website. So let me show you how this works. The key to it is the under branch. The key is that typically by default, your Git branch is called master. That's the sort of like fundamental core branch of your project where your like finals things are. Your main poem, your main code, whatever it is, lives in the master branch. For GitHub Pages to work, you want to get rid of this idea of having a master branch. You still can have one, but for simplicity, you can just think of your master branch as being called GH-Pages. So as long as the branch that you're working on is called GH-Pages, there is automatically a secret URL by which you can access. Now, there's a lot more to this, but I'm avoiding saying that now, and I'll get to it later. So let's come back up, and let's just do this right now. It's actually going to be quite simple and easy. I'm on my profile page. I'm the Rainbow Coder, for lack of a better username. And I'm going to make a new repository, and I'm going to call this Poem Website. So this is my repository name, Poem Website. This is a ridiculously bad repository name, but it's fine. You can come up with something better. And this poem will be on the internet and really on the World Wide Web I'm talking about. So that's my description. It's going to be public. I want to initialize it with a README so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just making a new repository through the GitHub interface just like I always have before. So I am going to hit Create Repository. There it is. Now I have this repository. So notice here that by default, the repository lives in the master branch. So in order for it to use GitHub Pages, all that I need to do is click here and make a new branch. So I'm going to type in GitHub-Pages, and I'm going to select Create Branch, GH Pages. So now I have this branch, GH Pages. Now, here's the thing. That master branch is still there. And in fact, if I were to go to this repository again, by default, it's going to put me onto the master branch. So to make things simpler, I want to make sure that GH-Pages is the default branch. So where I do that, I need to go to Settings. So I'm going to click on Settings. And under Settings, I'm going to go over here to Branches. I'm going to click on Branches. And over here, notice here, this is where it says Default Branch. So I want to go to this Default Branch place, and I want to switch Default Branch, and I want to switch it to GH Pages. And then I want to click Update. Now it's gonna say like, oh my goodness, changing your default branch can have unintended consequences. It can. And this is, we're living a little bit in the danger zone here. But what's the big deal? There's nothing in this repository yet. I'm just making a poem. I'm messing around. This is actually quite okay to do with a brand new repository. You're not affecting anything else that's happened in the history because there is no history so far. So I'm going to say, understand, update the default branch. And now the default branch is GH Pages. So if I go back to this, Poem Website repository, you can see that I am now by default in the branch GH Pages. Now there's a little bit This is fine, and I could stop here, but I want to be I'm really serious about GitHub Pages. I'm all in on GitHub Pages. So I also want to go over here to branches, where this is the link where I could view what are all the branches associated with this repo. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to see that the default branch is GH Pages, but I still have this other branch master. So over here on the right-hand side, there's this little trash icon. I can click this and actually delete the master branch. And this is worth doing because I don't want to by accident ever work on the master branch in this particular case. So I'm going to delete this branch, and you can see it's gone. It's kind of X'd out, and all I have now is a GH Pages branch. Okay, we did it. This repository is now a repository hosted through GitHub Pages. So I can go to settings, by the way, and I can scroll down under GitHub Pages. You can see here, your site is published at this URL. So by definition, if you have a GH Pages branch in your repository, the URL for that repository will be your username .github.io/the repository name, which in this case is Poem website. Now here's the thing. You absolutely can use a custom URL. So for example, I have several websites hosted through GitHub Pages. Natureofcode.com, for example, is hosted with GitHub Pages, but it isn't at schiffman.github.io/natureofcode. So there is a way to do that, and in another video, maybe I'll explore that as a topic. It's just a sort of configuration thing, but you get this sort of free URL that you can use. Now, let's go to that URL. And you can see here, it's going to say page not found. The reason is there are no files there. There's no files there for me to look at. I mean, maybe in the repository, there is a file called README. I might be able to look at that, but let's take a step further. Let's add a file. So I'm going to go here under Create New File, and I'm just going to name the file. Now, I'm just going to make a plain text file, and I'm going to call it poem.txt. And I'm going to I'm going to write some poetry. GitHub Pages. Oops, GitHug. Oh, I wrote that by accident, but I'm going to keep it. GitHug is a hug on the pages. Oh dear, this poem is terrible. Okay, so that's my poem. You can send me a pull request to improve it. And I'm going to do commit new file. And you can see that it's committing it directly to the GH Pages branch. And you can see there it is. So I can see it here in my GitHub repository, but now look at this. I can go to the URL, and I can put in there poem.txt. So I can access that particular file, and there you can see, there it is. I now have a web page with this particular poem on it. Now, that web page is a plain text file, so all it shows up as raw text. Those of you who have used the internet before or browsed the web have noticed that web pages have different fonts and images and animations. So to go further with this, to actually host a dynamic website through GitHub Pages, you need to actually have HTML files, perhaps also image files, perhaps also something called CSS files. I happen to have a whole set of tutorials about how to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create different kinds of web pages that you could go and look at and then come back to this. But I'm at least going to just in one step, I'm going to make an HTML poem just here so that you can see a little bit more. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to create another new file. And you know what? I'm going to call this file index.html. If you name a file index.html, then you don't actually have to type in that file name on the web. It will be the default file that's open whenever I go to rainbowcoder.github.io/poem website. So I'm going to call it that, and then I'm going to type some HTML into this file. I'm probably missing some things you're supposed to have in HTML, but HTML is all about having these tags, open HTML, close HTML, open body, close body, and in the body I can put something like H1, which means header 1, and I can say poem, and then I could say like H3 by Daniel Schiffman, and then I could say like P, which is for a paragraph, and I could say this, rainbow, you are my rainbow. And then I could put a period and close the paragraph. And you can see this is, You can check out my other tutorials to learn a lot more about HTML, but this is writing some markup, which is giving it some formatting. And I'm going to just add a little more formatting, like I'm going to add strong. So this is going to make that particular rainbow bold. And then I'm going to hit commit. I'm going to say making an HTML poem, and I'm going to commit that new file. And you can see now, what do I have in my repository? I now have index.html in addition to poem.txt. And if you remember, this is what poem.txt looks like. However, now if I go to the URL and I just get rid of that, right? And I want to go to just the core URL, rainbowcoder.github.io/poem website, and I hit enter, you can see there's my poem and formatted. So I've now used a little bit of HTML, and it's freely available on the internet. This is a website. People can contribute to this website by making pull requests. You can make changes to it through the GitHub interface. You can clone that repository down to your computer the same way I showed you in other videos. You can make branches. You can make changes. Just remember, the one thing that's going to be different, I'm actually going to, let's do this really quickly. Let's say you want to work with this locally. I want to get, I'm going to go to clone or download. I'm going to copy this URL, and I'm going to go to terminal. This is something that I did in a previous tutorial if you need to go back and look at that. And I'm going to say, first of all, just so you know, I'm on the desktop of my computer, and I'm going to say git clone. So we can see now that here is that, you can see there are the files. One thing for you to remember, if I say notice it's telling me I am on branch gh.pages. So if I ever want to get updated changes, git pull, normally we were saying things like git pull origin master. No longer is there a master branch. So I have to remember, if I use any of these other git commands, to always use gh.pages. Okay, so there you go. That's the basics of it. You can put image files, anything that you can do in a web page, you can put into this repository. You can add stuff, you can commit stuff. Your whole web page is there online for anyone to see and for you to work with through the Git platform. What I'm going to do in the next video, for those of you who might have come to this series by working with something called P5JS, is I'm going to show you how to actually take a code example, something that has HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and host that with GitHub Pages, which will actually be quite simple, but I'm just going to put that in a separate video because it does involve programming and source code. But you can actually just with this video, put a text file or some basic HTML online. Okay, thanks for watching, and let me know what questions you have in the comments.